Welcome back to the Sacred Arts channel, where we discuss all things from the practical to the sacred. I am intrigued by today's topic of healing through the wound and alchemizing our shadow. I'm incredibly grateful to introduce Ryan Krueger. Ryan is a spiritual embodiment guide. She is certified in many healing modalities, including shamanic practitioner, yoga teacher, sound therapist, Reiki master, and trainer. She has studied and embodied natural ways of healing for the past 28 years. She fully embodies all that she guides and takes time every day to continue her own healing, so she is able to show up and lead you from a place of purity and a place of sovereignty. She spreads beauty in everything she does, everywhere she goes. The world is her canvas. She mainly works with women specializing in womb work, one-on-one and in group setting, to guide them to release trauma, integrate it, and turn it into their personal power. She has worked through many of her own traumas in this life and cleared many traumas from her ancestral lineage, and has the experience and knowledge to do that for you too. She holds a powerful place, sacred container for you to heal. She is currently finishing Kundalini yoga teacher training and is deeply immersing herself in the study of the sacred feminine temple arts of the Rose lineage. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you so much, Jazzy, for having me.
Thank you. Everything that you absolutely embody, I can attest to. Anytime I've been at retreats with you, anytime I've had any interaction, you absolutely bring this beautiful energy and grounding energy into the space. And I salute you for all of the work that you've done, because it is not for the faint of heart. And so I really want to dive in. And can we start off by sharing a bit of your journey into exploring the shadow side of our psyche and the importance of womb healing?
Sure. So, our shadow side is seen a little bit differently by different people. To me, the shadow is all parts of ourselves that we have hidden, parts that we may be ashamed of, parts that we have been shamed for. And uncovering the shadow is really like where your nectar is. It's where your real authentic essence is in your shadow. It's in the parts that you hid from everyone because of ridicule or abuse or to fit in. Whatever reason you had to hide, please come out. Please wake up. Yeah, so our shadow, when we can send our shadows love, our shadows are able to integrate into us. And with this, we are no longer fighting the side of ourselves, but we are honoring it, we are loving it, and we are happy to reveal it, to share it, because we come into these human bodies in these spiritual forms, and we get to have this messy, this raw, this very wild human experience. And uncovering the shadow and healing that shadow is really a deep part of it, to be able to fully express at your highest capacity in this life. And a lot of our shadow for women is within the womb, tying these together. We hold so much in our wombs. We hold sorrow and grief and all of these different emotions that are ours from this life, from past lives. We hold all of these things that we may be shameful for. We hold all these parts of ourselves that we're hiding away, all these shadow parts, and we're not expressing them. And so we become deeply wounded in this space in our body. This is our creative center. When our womb is glowing and is vibrant and healed, we are able to express from pure authenticity, from divine connection, and we are able to create fluidly, express ourselves fluidly. And yeah, so does that sum that up a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, when you
Okay.
said shadow is the essence of our nectar, I got full body goosebumps because
Yeah.
I spend, and I think a lot of our listeners can agree, we spend so much time trying to push our shadow down and away and not acknowledge it and ignore it. And like, that's like the icky side of me. Like, that's not something I even want to look at. Right. And so when you said that, I was like, yes, it is the heart of who we are. It's a part of who we are. And so it's so important to work on it and look at it and love it and feel it.
Yes,
Uh,
definitely.
Absolutely. So when we talk about alchemizing the shadow, how would you describe what the shadow is? And especially for listeners who may be new to this concept, can you give us a little bit of detailed background around that?
Yeah, I'll give an example of something that I would say probably 99% of women um have some shame about is their bodies, right? So over time, there's, these different time periods and all these different body types are, well, this is what women should look like now. And then it changes, and then this is what women should look like now. And at this day and age, the way that, and I can attest to this as I am a photographer also. I have a degree in photography. And during my course, we were working with digital photography and we were required to edit these covers of women like they do in the magazines. And it was really, I felt really sickened to have to do this. We would literally take like inches off a woman's um, abdomen, her sides, and squeeze her in. And then we would pump up her breast and we would pump up the lips and make like bedroom dreamy eyes. And just, we would totally alter this woman who was beautiful from the beginning into something of some weird like cartoon fantasy of what we've been conditioned to think is how a woman should look. And a woman should not look like anything specific. She should just look like her. She
Mm.
shouldn't have to get thinner, gain weight, get augmentation on different parts of her body, to get plastic surgery, to get Botox, all of these things. Our society, really disrupts us and disconnects us in this way, again, from our womb. It disconnects us from our own body. It disconnects us from our divine feminine.
Part of our shadow self is all of these stories that society puts on us, the billboards. It wasn't until I saw a celebrity in person where I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, that person, it doesn't even look like the person on screen or in that magazine. It's really interesting to kind of see that in real life and also to remove the blinders that I had on in terms of like, oh, well, my mom used to say that I had to be a certain weight, like under which standards that was something that she had learned from her parents and so
Right.
on and so far so
Yeah.
on, right? And so I think that how this ties back is absolutely the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we believe from other people all feed that shadow side of
Yeah.
ourselves, right?
They do. They really do. And I did remember what I was going to say was this is a really deep practice that you could do. And since this is such a deep practice, I recommend that if you begin to do what I'm about to suggest to you, that you maybe have someone that can hold space for you, someone like an energy practitioner or a therapist or something along these lines. So I invite you to stand in front of a mirror naked. Or maybe you have a hand mirror. And I invite you to look at all of the parts of you that for some reason you don't like and ask, why don't I like that part of me? Why don't I like the way that my stomach folds when I bend over? Is it me that doesn't like that? Or did somebody say something about that to me? Where does it really come from? Where is it resonating from? Why can I not love myself because I have cellulite on my thighs? Guess what? Almost everybody has cellulite. I don't care what size you are. Cellulite doesn't matter what size you are. Cellulite is a constriction of the fascia, which is essentially a webbing around your muscles. So if you're not actively doing things to break up the fascia, you'll have cellulite forever. It doesn't matter what skin cream you use. It doesn't matter. You can there are ways that you can move that fascia and release the fascia so that you don't have that look. But was it really you that didn't like that, that didn't accept that that was a part of you? Or was that from something that someone said? And just doing this and over again, doing this maybe once a day for a few minutes and discovering that over time, you actually love that fold in your stomach when you bend over. And you actually don't mind that you have cellulite because it's your body and it brought you to where you are today. It carried you through all of your trials and tribulations, and it's your human vessel. And we all have so-called flaws. In someone's eyes, you are flippin' gorgeous.
So
And
true.
yeah, so that is
Mm,
a very powerful way to connect to your divine feminine through the shadow.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love that exercise. I started getting a little teary just imagining myself doing it.
Yeah, I yeah, it's really big. It's a really big one.
I love it. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. I feel like a lot of the shadow, the way that we treat our shadow also is interwoven with the way that we've been taught and how to process our emotions, you know, through bypass and when we're little, we're told not to cry, we're told not to make
Yeah.
children are to be seen, not heard type of
Yeah.
situation, right? And those are the things that we believe. And as healers, we all go through some sort of awakening where we're like, wait a second, I'm supposed to be looking at my emotions. Can you share what it felt like when you first started shutting down your emotions and then the transformation you experienced once you began to honor them?
Yeah. So when I first started to shut down my emotions when I was about 7 years old, and yeah, it was really hard. It was, you know, I was getting teased in school and I didn't understand why people didn't like me the way that I was. And I had a moment where I was crying in school. There were two really big shifts in my timeline that shaped me. One of them was my best friend leaving kindergarten, and I had no notice. Her parents were moving, and I was angry. I was upset. I felt abandoned. I felt hurt. And I was mad. And I was not allowed to express that. I wasn't allowed to have those emotions. I got in trouble for having these feelings. And I remember another pivotal point where the following year, my grandma, who helped raise me, went back down south to live. And my mom didn't want me to be upset. So she didn't tell me until after I came home from school, and I didn't know about it in advance. And so then I went to the school the next day and I was like devastated that I didn't get to say goodbye. And I remember crying in school and having a boy say, "You have to suck it up. You can't show your feelings." Because I was getting teased for showing my emotions. He told me that I needed to hide them if I didn't want to experience being bullied and verbally attacked. And yeah, and it kind of just like really shocked my system. At that point, I didn't know, like, who do I trust? Right? So I started to shut down my emotions and show up the way that everybody wanted me to show up. And if I was sad and I needed to cry, then I would hide and do it in my room, and I wouldn't tell anybody about it. I wouldn't tell anybody about how I was feeling, how I was heartbroken over this or that, or, someone wasn't my friend anymore. And I, cried myself to sleep every night, whatever it was. And it just kept being this thing where I would just, I would show one face, I would show a front to everyone. And everyone thought that I was so sweet and so pretty and so perfect. And inside, I felt like I didn't feel like me. I felt sad and I felt angry because I couldn't show who I really was because it wasn't safe. And so that, that unsafety kept me from sharing with other people my true emotions. And so it was hard to form friendships and all of these different things, relationships with people. And there were some times where I would show my true self and my true essence. And by some people it was accepted, and by others it was weird. And I was usually the weird girl. And so then I went to hide again, and it really sent me into a dark place. I had all these, these different things that had happened to me when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, where I was sexually abused, and there wasn't anyone that I could talk to about it. There wasn't anybody that could understand. And so not being able to express this or move it out of my body because I didn't know how and I didn't have the tools then, it really sent me into a deep depression. Most of my life, I had been hiding who I was for the sake of everyone else. Everyone else loved me. I didn't love me. And there became a point where I just thought, I want to die. And I was suicidal and I was depressed for many, many years, probably like 10, 15 years. And it took a lot. It took a lot of failures over and over again in my life, because I was just being shown again, like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. This is not how you're supposed to be living. This is, you need to wake up. So all of these bad things would happen over and over again, from abuse to abuse at jobs, sexual harassment. I don't think that there was a single job. I worked at one job a couple years ago, and I think that was the first job that I wasn't sexually harassed at. I have been sexually harassed since 4th grade. And so, so there's a lot of hiding who I was. And I had, all these traumas building up, all these terrible things happening over and over again. And I was like, I'm not even exactly sure what the moment was, but it just clicked that if you keep going this way, you are going to die. You can't live like this. This isn't you, and something needs to change. And so I made a decision then that I needed to change, and I needed to change big. And so I started to do things that I wasn't getting support about, or that people hadn't wanted me to do in the past. I decided, actually started meditating. I don't think I'd ever meditated before. It was like maybe around 5 years ago. I just started meditating all of a sudden. And because I got this hit, because I started listening to my intuition again. My intuition is super powerful. What I've learned is when I listen to my intuition, I am in flow. I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But for many years, when my intuition was weird and I got ridiculed for my intuition, I stopped using it. And that's when I hated my life. So coming back to that, I had these traumas, this wake-up moment, and during the meditation, I received the information that I was to study Reiki, and I was to get my Reiki Masters, and I was to begin to heal myself and to heal other people. And then I got the reminder that 20 years ago, I wanted to take a yoga teacher training. And it felt like deep in my heart, I wanted to do that. And I didn't do it because I didn't have any support. Everyone's like, you're going to fail. You're not going to make it. And so I signed up for a yoga teacher training, and I got my certification, and I've been teaching for a few years now, and it's a passion of mine. And I've been doing energy work for a little longer than I've been teaching yoga. And then I always felt like there was something bigger and I didn't know what. And then I found this shamanic work, and didn't think that I could do that. Being fair-skinned, white female, it wasn't what we had, maybe thought or categorized shamans as looking like or whatnot. So I didn't even think that was a possibility, but I had looking for a place to explore my gifts that I always knew that I had and that I used quite often when I was young. And then when I started to shut myself down, I also shut down those gifts. So waking those gifts back up and wanting to heal from the sexual trauma that I experienced, and starting to work with my own womb, and beginning a de-armoring practice, and beginning visualizations, energy work, all these different healing tools, somatic work, tantric breath work, like all of these different things. And now looking back, I can see all of the why this had to happen the way it happened, why this happened when that happened. And not that I love the way many things happened. Some of them were really they were really traumatizing and really painful. But they were there to wake me up so that I could do the work that I'm supposed to be doing here on this planet at this time, which is womb work. I'm supposed to be healing women's wombs. I'm supposed to be getting women connected back to their true divine feminine essence, to connect them back to their wombs and from source, spirit, God, goddess, whoever you believe that we are created from creator, back to creator and to our intuition, and using many modalities and different tools that I have learned over the last I've been doing this work on and off since I started my healing journey, probably like 26 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. And so, yeah, that's kind of what that's looked like for me.
God, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. One of the things that I love about your story is that it seems like things started to kind of crystallize for you, or your path started to open up and things started to become a little more in flow when you started to listen to yourself. You started to tap back in to your intuition, regardless of your old programming of that little boy telling you to shut down your emotions, right? Because that's how we're all programmed. Like, shut it down. No one wants to hear that. Do what society tells you to do. And it isn't until we come back to ourselves, back into our own truths. And one of the things that came up during your story is like, wow, so many of us live in such different realities, right? Like, a lot of us are ingrained in the 9 to 5 and shutting down our emotions and just going on autopilot, and a lot of us healers are awakened to that and are like, no, we're deciding something different. That's what I want our listeners to really take away from this story, this brave story that you have told, because I think a lot of us can identify with some similarities and some parallels in our own journeys. It isn't until we choose something different, it isn't until we say, no, there's a different way to live. There's a different, we just have to find it, right? Through whatever modality, whether it's womb healing, Reiki. I love that you listen to your intuition in, like, yes, Reiki is the next step, but it wasn't the only thing, because you went on and did all of these amazing things and you're continuing to heal. You're continuing to explore and really bring your spirit and your soul in line with like your human self in this lifetime, right? So that was so beautiful. Thank you for taking us on that journey.
Thank you for listening. Yeah, now I can't stop like just absorbing like everything to keep healing.
I know, right? Yeah. Same. I have just have to say this. After I graduated from the Shamanic Academy year 1, I was like, okay, I need to stop and just absorb what just happened this last year and stop trying to like look for something different. So I'm just taking a break and just kind of integrating that experience to see
Yeah.
what's next. But yeah, you're right. There's something like, once you find that, oh, there's a different way. Well, what other ways are there? Let
Yeah.
me explore. Let me experience. No,
Yeah.
that didn't work. Let me move on to the next thing. Oh, this is great. Let me do more of that. So I try to
Yeah.
give myself a little bit of grace.
Yeah. Yes, give yourself grace and absolutely. Yeah, after graduating, I dived into another program, but then I took I really have had my work be very light the last few months because I've been
Oh,
integrating so much. But the Rose Heart Womb body work is a divine feminine arts, temple arts for awakening the divine feminine in the body. And I have been studying that and getting my practice hours in. And it is a really deeply incredible body work that helps you connect back to your divine feminine, your body, your womb, releasing all of these different stored emotions from your physical body. Because if we're not releasing, if we don't know how to move things out of our bodies, they get stored and trapped within. And it's very visceral and working with the fascia in the body to release these deeply stored emotions, helping to regulate women's menstrual cycles, to prepare them for pregnancy, to heal birthing traumas. All of these to remove stored grief and pain from the heart space, to open our throats and our voices and let our truth speak out into the world. It's really powerful.
I love that. I know I saw that on your bio and was like, what is that? That looks interesting. And I went down the rabbit hole. I was like, this looks really cool. So anything I think of that's really cool, I have it down on the list so that later on in 2024, when I'm ready for my next program, I'm gonna go and
Yes.
see what calls. So thank you for sharing that. I'm really curious, and I'm sure our listeners are too. How does healing the womb play into the broader context of a woman's healing journey, especially when we're talking about trauma?
So, our womb is our power center. We can literally bring in a soul from another reality and birth it into this reality. That's magical. And with that being our power center, it is very important to tend to your womb. We get so disconnected from our wombs. Many women don't even like to talk about their moon cycles. They're ashamed that they have a period. They want to take a pill to make it go away. That disrupts your natural body so much and causes so many health ailments and disease to do that. Getting back to the old ways and tending to our body in these cycles and honoring our moon time, giving our blood back to the earth, even for her continued nourishment, for that deep connection, knowing what the color of your menstrual blood looks like, what your body feels like, what's normal for you, what's supposed to be normal, like to have a regular period. If you're not having a regular period, something is wrong with your womb and you need to look at that. A lot of women that I've known in the past have been like, oh, I haven't had a period in 4 months. Thank God. And I'm like, that's not good. Because we're so disconnected from our bodies. Our society shames us for being a woman, for being sensitive. Our menstrual cycle, like a woman's cycle, is very interesting. Men go through this cycle in a 24-hour period. They go through a season of summer, fall, winter, and spring. This death and rebirth cycle, okay? For women, we go through this cycle and it's about 28 days. It's the cycle of our moon. It's with the moon, it's with the tides. And so our body takes then like about a couple weeks or a week or so to complete each cycle. So that's when we get shamed for, oh, she has PMS. Oh, she's being a bitch. Well, maybe she's just expressing what she needs to express. Why is that bitchy? To be truthful, because she's not being coy, because she's not putting on this phase for you to want her to be a certain way, and you're not allowing her to be who she is authentically. You're wanting some condition around this. So being disconnected from our womb disconnects us from everything. If we're not taking care of our womb, we are not connected to that from which we came, from our creator. We can have direct contact. We can feel the divine within us in our womb. You can even take an orgasm and experience a divine connection to creator. You experience your godliness. You experience your divinity. And if you're disconnected from your womb, you are unable to have these experiences. It is our God-given right. It is our birthright to have these human vessels where we get to explore pleasure. We get to find joy. And when we're disconnected from the womb, we cannot find pleasure and joy. We often can become numb to a lot of things, numb to even being touched by someone. And when we have a healthy womb, our womb and our throat are directly connected. So what's very interesting about this, if you look at pictures, you can find them online, that show the inside of the vagina and then the inside of the throat, and they look the same. And what is even more fascinating is that they both have the same tissue. And that tissue is nowhere else on the human body. And so when you are clearing, and I watched this happen to myself, I used to have a really high-pitched voice, and that was another reason that I stopped. I became very shy and didn't express much because I had a really high voice and I got made fun of a lot. And so I had this higher voice, and everybody always thought that I was a little kid, especially on the phone. And so through clearing trauma from the womb, my voice changed tone.
Wow.
And I have a bigger, I'm not a professional singer. I've never taken any singing lessons, so I don't even know what you call this, but it's like the notes that you could hit. So maybe I could hit like a scale like this, and then now I can hit a scale like this. And I thought that my scale would go higher, but it actually went lower.
Wow.
So that was fascinating. But yes. And so then also when you're clearing your womb, it brings you more confidence because you are connected to your body in such a way that nothing else can connect you to. And that expresses up and out through your throat, through your authentic expression to the world. And so when you are connected to the womb and you are taking care of your body, you are clearing anything out that needs to be cleared from your life, setting boundaries, having energy alignments or clearings, eating right for yourself, fueling your body with these nutritious foods, doing all of these different techniques to self-express, to heal yourself, you're getting really deeply connected with who you are. And your periods line up. It's easy to conceive if you're looking to conceive. You can get pregnant more easily. Your pregnancy will be easier. Your birthing experience will be easier when you have a healthy womb. And so it's like really, really important to take care of the space of our body and to get to know it and understand it and understand what she's telling you. She will talk to you, and she is divinity. She's your divinity within. She's divine guidance, and she often has a lot to say, but if you listen, it's powerful and you'll just find beauty everywhere.
Absolutely. I feel like it also ties directly back to shadow work because I do hear a lot of women complain about their periods or, like just talk awful about that time of the month. And my response is always like, really? I'm like so thankful for my period when I get, I mean, me getting older and I'm just like always so grateful. And like, I do all the things that you just said, around gratitude and like looking at the color, is it syncing up with the moon, those type of things. But I didn't learn that until later on in life. And when I really started to unravel my own story, it came back to like, oh, this is how my mom used to talk about her period, how my grandma used to talk about her period. Like they just didn't like it. And it was like
Yeah.
this huge burden, right? And I think that comes from society as well, in the way that it's spoken about in movies and TV shows and commercials. Like it feels very shameful. And so I think that's another way of looking at our shadow and how we feel about our cycles. And you're so right. Once you start to embrace it and really look at it and take care of it and nourish it, things change. Like
Yeah.
PMS goes away, like you know what I mean? Like it doesn't hurt anymore. It's a magical thing for sure.
Yes. I would like to invite our listeners. I have another great tip for you. Um, a lot of women don't even know still about what I'm about to talk about is a moon cup, a cup or a disc. So when we place tampons in our body, they can scratch our tissues. They can irritate us inside, and they can also invite in bacteria and STDs in this way. Not to mention there's like that toxic shock syndrome, and a lot of tampons have a lot of chemicals in them, and your vagina is super sensitive. And so you really want to be extremely careful about what you are putting in there. And so you want to maybe try to stop using tampons. Um, Also because they're gross. They smell. They're not pleasant to look at after you use them, and then they're in the landfill. And how much garbage are you creating? And how much space is that taking up on Earth? And it's very disconnecting you from your body, from your cycle. You don't really get to learn like what your consistency of your blood is. You don't get to experience the color. You're just disconnected in this way. And it's also premature penetration and actually traumatizes the body. and desensitizes us when we go to receive pleasure from our partner. And switching to something like a cup is often they're made from a medical grade silicone. You can wash them. You can sanitize them. They last for years. You can get them somewhere between, like, depending on what brand it is, $20 to $50. And this one purchase lasts about 5 years. So how much money are you saving? And it feels much more comfortable in your body. It's not going to create those little scratches internally. You can see your blood. You can actually see how much you bleed. You might bleed a lot more or a lot less than you thought. Since using a cup, my cramps are almost non-existent. For years, I didn't have cramps at all. A lot of PMS symptoms, will go away. You don't even feel it. It takes a little bit getting used to. I will say that I did try to switch to a cervical disc, which I've heard really great things about. They're supposed to be even more convenient, but I'll let you know, if you don't have super strong muscles, it's really difficult to get it out. And if you have had trauma to any part of your vagina and it's unhealed, chances are you might struggle with pushing it out. So you might want to, if you're not familiar, see a pelvic floor specialist or do your own de-armoring and see what parts of your body need more activation, what parts are too tight, what parts are loose, what parts need to be strengthened. You can use a jade egg. You can do Kegel exercises. You can do pelvic floor exercises. There's, certain yoga poses. Belly dancing is really good to support the hips and the pelvic floor. So these are other great ways where you can get more in tune with your body and your cycle and make that experience more pleasurable for you and easier.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I do have one last question for you. You've guided so many women to their empowerment, and I know that that can be such a transformative journey. What's a piece of advice or insight you'd like to share with women who are seeking to reclaim their power and heal?
It's really important to get support. If you don't have a support system, whether that be a friend or a therapist or an energy worker or a life coach or someone working with you to support you, it's super easy to so-called fail. You really need some kind of support system, any kind of support system to help you reach your goals. And so if you're looking to empower yourself, baby steps, forgiveness. If you set out to do something and you mess up the first time, who cares? It's okay. We're human. Remember that you're having a human experience. So failing is not bad. When we fail, we have the opportunity to learn from our failure. It could be a lesson. It can be a stepping stone. So honor yourself. I'm only a human. I'm doing the best that I can. And take baby steps. And healing is not linear. You may do all this healing and You're spiraling up, 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 and you're just flying and everything is amazing. And then all of a sudden something happens and you just drop down or you spiral down. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not, my vibration must not be high anymore, right? A lot of people are like, oh, my vibration. um that thing that came in and sent you down was there for a reason. It was to help you grow. So it wasn't a matter of like somebody is destroying your vibration, that you're not still a high vibrant person, that you're not still on this healing journey and you want to help people, and you want to grow. Things come in for reasons. Sometimes we don't get to know what those reasons are in the moment. Sometimes we never get to know the whys. We have to be okay with not knowing, and we have to see the lesson. Why did that happen? What was I to learn from it? How can I improve myself? How can I grow? Where will this take me now? What's next? Like, get curious and get excited about failing, because it means something better is going to happen. We think that it's the end of the world when it happens and we're like all distraught, but just take a step back. Everybody fails. Everybody. Everybody. I can't even count how many times that I failed.
Same.
But if I don't pick myself back up, then I would never be where I am today. And so everybody fails. Big deal. We'll just have gratitude for you and you on your journey, and it doesn't matter how slow it might seem or how fast it might seem, because time doesn't exist. In case you didn't know, I just burst that bubble. It doesn't exist. It's all a figment of our imagination and the way that we're conditioned since birth. So there's no rush. You have all the time in the world.
It's so true. I'm so glad that you presenced that, because I had a moment the other day where I was like, gosh, maybe I don't have as big as a high vibe as I thought. And I went down that spiral. I got really mad at myself. And I was like, wait a second, that was just a blimp. Like,
Yes.
I had to remind myself. So thank you for
Yeah.
presencing that, because I think, especially around this time of the year, we're recording this like a week after Thanksgiving. And this, like, our emotions could be like really roller coastery right now, because there's so many
Oh, yeah.
triggers and seeing so many people that we normally may or may not interact with on a daily basis. So, have a little grace, and such great advice. Thank you for um voicing that into the space. Can you tell us about any upcoming events or offerings that you have?
Yeah, so I am going to be releasing a one-on-one program called Goddess on Fire, and it'll be a 12-week program, and it will be working one-on-one. I'm only taking a few women, and we'll be working for these 12 weeks together, for your empowerment. I'm going to connect you to your divine feminine, to connect you to your womb, to journey with you as you move through traumas, using many different techniques, really catered to the individual. And we'll be exploring all these different things so that you can feel powerful again, so that you can move through all of these different setbacks, all of these different things that you've been struggling with, and love living in your body and finding joy and pleasure in everything that you do, and seeing the magic in the whole world around you, in every little thing, in every situation, and really bringing in deep presence with yourself and your soul and with others. Yeah, it's going to be super beautiful. I'll be promoting that on my Instagram and Facebook, which are both Divine Alchemy. And I have that, the Instagram and the Facebook pages, and also a link tree under Divine Alchemy. And so Jazzy will connect you with that information. I have
Excellent.
some upcoming in-person workshops. I have one for healing the sister wound this Saturday, and that also uses the powerful plant medicine of cacao,
Oh,
so dear to my heart. And then there's some things in the works for retreats, hopefully this next upcoming year. Some women's embodiment retreats, really tapping into your womb and your sensuality and your sexuality and your authentic expression in this form. Yeah.
that's beautiful. I have a question about your Goddess on Fire 12-week program. Are you offering that virtually as well?
That is only virtually.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah. That is virtually, completely virtual. Yeah. So anywhere around the world, um, yes, I will, before I release, I will put a prayer out as I always do. I put a prayer out for the people that is for their highest and best and for my highest and best to co-create together to find me.
Very cool.
And they do.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Sacred Arts and sharing your story and all of your wisdom with our listeners. I am so grateful to have you on. For our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please let us know down below in the reviews or in the comments. We would love to hear from you. And also, it helps us here on the channel for people to find us, and give us a like and subscribe and hit the bell. Until next time, I will see you soon.